let's go ahead and get started, guys. So welcome everybody to the December Austin DFW San Antonio Tug. Real happy to have everyone join us. Good to see a lot of familiar faces. My name's Chris Monahan. I'm on the Tug Advisory Council. I'll be your MC today. We've got a great event planned for you. Got great speakers, and we're going to do a year in review and play a little game at the end to see test your trivia knowledge on some of the events we did this year. So let's get started. So as always, I like to thank a lot of the people that work so hard every month to bring these great events to you. This is our member, all the members on our Tug Advisory Council. These are the great people that line up all the speakers, plan all the content, help with all the questions, and they do just a tremendous job. This month, I'd especially like to thank Amy Wu, who helped line up today's speaker. And I'd also like to welcome Javon McCrae, who is our newest member. He joined yesterday. So if you guys want to help participate, plan some of these events, please reach out to one of us on the advisory council. Let us know. We'd love to have you join. We meet every other week, and it's a lot of fun. So our agenda for today, we're going to do some general housekeeping announcements, talk about some upcoming events, and then we have a great speaker that's going to be presenting today. Her name's Ann Jackson, and she's the founder and managing director of Jackson 2. She's going to be giving a presentation on Tableau strategies for geospatial data. It's a great topic, super interesting, and it's from her new book, so you guys can check it out. And for those of you that would like a copy, we are going to be providing a short survey in the chat, and that way you guys can fill out the survey and get a chance to win a free ebook. So that'll be great. And then after that, we'll be doing a little bit of a contest similar to our poll that we just did. It'll be a year-end recap of all the events we did during 2021, and we're going to test your knowledge to see how well you've been paying attention at some of our Tug events. So just a reminder, as always, the meeting format, this is a live meeting. So we want you all to turn on your cameras. We encourage that. We want to see your faces. And if you're on Zoom and you know Zoom, go ahead and turn it to gallery view. That's going to be the best user experience there. Please observe Zoom etiquette. So if you're not speaking, please put it on mute. We want you all to participate in the chat window. So post comments, tell us what you like about the presentations. If you do have questions for our speaker, our advisory board member, Homer Hegeditz, is going to be collecting all the comments. So please go ahead and send a direct message to Homer, and he will go ahead and field all those questions so we can save them till the end of the presentation. And again, I'll be providing some surveys, so look in the chat for that survey for a chance to win the ebook. So just a few housekeeping announcements. In January 13th to be specific, we're going to have Tim Nguena speak to us, otherwise known as Tableau Tim. He's a Tableau Zen master from the UK, and he works for the Information Lab. Great speaker. If you've never seen him before, you can check out his YouTube channel. I think he has like 40,000 subscribers. He's awesome. And he will be doing a presentation on the best features of 2021.4. So as you guys know, that's coming out. If you're a Tableau Online, you're seeing it right now. There's a lot of new stuff that came out at TC. In fact, in December, we did a little panel on some of the new stuff coming out. Now you'll actually see how does all that stuff work. So he'll be giving you a preview, actually showing demos of all the new features in 2021.4. So definitely check it out. And then I want to say, we've worked really hard and we've appreciated everybody coming to our virtual Tugs. January will be one of our final virtual Tugs. We're actually going to be transitioning to a hybrid mode now. So we're real happy to be offering this and meeting it live in person. For those that want to come, for those that still prefer the joining us virtually, we're going to have the Zoom set up. We'll have it so it accommodates you as well. So real happy to finally be offering this. We haven't specified the location yet, but we will send out details soon. So again, look for that. That'll be our February Tug on February 10th. So right now, I'd like to turn it over and to our featured speaker, Ann Jackson. As I mentioned, she's the founder and managing director of Jackson 2. And she's a Zen master and just a tremendous author. She has her new book out, the Tableau Strategies, and she's going to give us some information from some of the chapters in that book about geospatial data with Tableau. So, Anne, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here speaking to you about Tableau Strategies. It's been about a year and a half of my life, probably extended because of the pandemic. I was very excited when it was released. And so my goal today, and I'll begin sharing my screen, is to give you a real flavor of what you can expect within the book. As Chris mentioned, part of what we will be doing is giving away 5 free copies, ebooks, if you fill out the survey. So you're going to get a flavor of you're going to get a taste of what those chapters look like and what you can expect to learn whenever you get access to the book. If for some reason you do not get a copy and you are still interested, of course, you can buy it on Amazon, or you can go to our website and you can get a free trial of O'Reilly's learning platform. What I'll actually be sharing in terms of the presentation is what it looks like in the O'Reilly platform. One of the great things about it being an ebook or looking at it virtually is you can copy and paste in the calculations. So if you're eager to learn, but you don't want to hand code calculations from the book into Tableau, a digital version of the book is going to be your best friend. So with that, I will go ahead and get started. So as Chris mentioned, I'm going to be talking about geospatial data. And what I really want to do is walk through sort of how, what, why we work with geospatial data and how that looks like, or what it looks like in Tableau. Part of what we do with Tableau Strategies particularly is really try to communicate what the stakeholder is looking for, why we are doing the things we're doing. It's more than just a technical book. It's more than how to make a map in Tableau. It's about why you should make a map. Or it's about why you should make any particular chart. But today it's going to be about maps, AKA geospatial data. I love maps. When I was thinking about this chapter and I was writing it, one of the first things I really thought about is like a map is one of the first data visualization types you probably see from a very young age. We all know what a map looks like. I mean, Chris opened the tug today with a map. So it's something that just sort of like, it's very easy for us to understand and contextualize, and maps are awesome. I think we've all had that aha moment where we've built a map inside of Tableau and shared it with someone else, and they were really excited, enthusiastic, energetic, and they're like, oh my gosh, I get it. It's a map. I want to see more. But that said, just because you can use a map, should you use a map? Do you really need a map? And if you are going to make a map, what should you do to make it the best map possible, so to speak? I mean, of course, that is based on the given scenario, but that's sort of what we'll be walking through here today. The way this chapter is outlined, in a way, a lot of the book Tableau Strategies is outlined, is we sort of start at the basics. So we wanted to make sure, so Luke and I wanted to make sure that anyone and everyone who had experience with Tableau could take advantage of the book. There are moments of the book, I won't lie, that are very complicated and you may want to pull your hair out whenever you go through them. But there are other things, and what I'm going to show you is sort of starting at the foundation of a visual analytics concept and really building it up. And as part of that process, really thinking through sort of internally, what's going on, what should I be doing, how does this relate to the questions that are being asked. One thing that's also really nice about the book, and this is available on the website. So we have a website, tablewstrategies.com. This is sort of like the repository where all of our data sources are located. Is Luke and I very specifically tried to source data from many different industries, from different situations. So it's not just a book that has Superstore in it. We'll be using Superstore as a starting point tonight or today, but that's not all that's in there. There's actually a bunch of different data sources. All of these are sourced from real life consulting or practical examples that either Luke or myself experienced. So if you are someone who might be in a job where you are working with Superstore all the time, or you're working with retail data all the time, or you're working with marketing data all the time, even just the awareness and access to different types of data can be really powerful. So that's one of the things he and I are both very proud of as part of this. And one thing to know, and even if you don't choose to buy the book or move forward with it, just know you have access to these as a free resource. There's different types of data throughout there. There's banking transactions, there's call center data, there's grant data, there's survey data, you name it, that type of data is likely to be inside of the book. And when you download it, it's pretty darn clean. We've tried to make it as simple as possible to use. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. The way I'm going to kind of structure my talk is very fluid. It's very hands-on. So like I said, I'm going to kind of start at the basics and build up from there. In the book, what we kind of talk about in the beginning is, imagine you are working for an office supply store, and we're going to call it Office Essentials. Just so you know, it is Superstore data. I don't expect you to follow along, but I do expect you to just sort of be curious about everything that I'm going to share with you. Now, when you work with Tableau, the very first thing you are likely to make, and I'm sure you guys all know how to do this, but we'll just start at the beginning, is a map. And the very first business question we're going to answer is one that is posed to us, which is, what is my customer penetration for Superstore, for the Office Essentials organization in the United States? So let's go ahead and get started. So we're saying Tableau makes things really easy by being able to double click on your geospatial data and get a map just with a single click of a button. You know, we're kind of spoiled that Tableau has this geospatial engine underneath it, and it can map the latitude and longitude of the various data points on our map with just a simple click. So this in and of itself isn't really anything interesting. Okay, we've got data in our lower 49 states. So the very first question being, you know, what does our customer penetration look like in each given state, might lead you to do this calculation. Hey, I can count the unique number of customers within the data. So let's go ahead and do a count distinct, and let me make this bigger. We're going to use customer name. I get it. There might be two customers with the same name. I don't have a customer ID, so please play along with me in this fairy tale world where every single customer has a unique name in the data set. So at the very core of this, we're just going to count the distinct customer names, and I'm going to go ahead and drag that onto color. And I'm going to go ahead and also drag that onto label. So I'm just going to kind of pause for a second, and let me go ahead and even make this full screen so we can really take in this map. So we've kind of answered the business question. Let me go ahead and even rename this, and let's call this customer penetration. Customer penetration by state. Okay, so honestly, if I were doing Tableau for the very first time, this is probably where I would have stopped. My boss would have been like, hey, Anne, you know, can you tell me how many customers there are per state so I can get an idea of how many we have? I'd be like, yep, I got you covered. And this would be the map I would produce. But this is where I think we all owe it to ourselves and to our bosses, our stakeholders, to whoever's asking the question, to really think through exactly what it is we're doing. And if you are like me, you absolutely know that California has way more people in it than somewhere like Kansas. So this idea that there's 577 customers in California and there's 14 in Kansas, it may not jive in terms of customer penetration, that there's potentially more customers in general in California than there are in Kansas. So this is kind of the very first learning moment that we come across, which is, okay, we've got a really basic map. We've got the numbers. My saying that there's 577 customers in California is not inaccurate. It's actually completely accurate, but we're doing ourselves a disservice in actually answering the business question. And if you are shouting at me on mute in Zoom saying, you know what the next step is, I guarantee that I'm going to do the next step and answer and hopefully release that burden of what you're feeling, which is, we know there are different populations for each state. So why not normalize the data or take that metric, the unique number of customers for a given state, and bounce that against the actual population for that given state? And this is where you go from being good at Tableau and being an okay data analyst to going toward that greatness. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're actually going to enrich the data with census data. And this is kind of a fun process, especially now with data modeling in Tableau. We can do a lot of stuff really quickly and really easily by taking advantage of the data modeling capabilities. So I'm going to go ahead and connect to my census data file, which is an Excel file on my desktop. So give me just a second to go ahead and connect to it. So here it is. I've got my US Census data by state. I'm going to go ahead and open it. And now I've got one data source, one data source or in here, but with two connections. And let's go ahead and just take a peek at what's in this data. This is really aggregated data. You're seeing annual census numbers, some older ones and some estimates, but then kind of like what that general census is for each given state. And this is where Tableau really comes to life to some degree. I can use logical data modeling, which is a newer feature, to actually join together these two data sets. And the benefit of logical data modeling is that we are no longer doing a physical join. We are not going row by row and joining that data against itself. And if we were to do that, which you would probably be doing pre-2020-ish, you would end up having your census values sort of replicated under there. You'd think about each row of data actually having that estimated census amount or those census amounts for each given year up against your very granular order data, which wouldn't really be appropriate. We'd end up writing a bunch of level of detail expressions or taking a bunch of maxes to be able to do what we want to do, which is to normalize the data. But when we go into a world of logical data modeling and we set up that relationship with this fun little noodle right here, we now see that we've got two tables. We've got our orders table, which is completely living by itself. It's got that 9,994 rows. And then we've also got our sheet one, which is our census data, which has 56 rows. It's got a little bit of an aggregation for some different territories in the United States, and then each of those given states. But by doing that one simple thing, particularly through the logical data modeling, we can confidently bring on that census information without any sort of over aggregation or having to compensate for that aggregation. And we can test this. I'm going to go ahead and drag on the census value here, and I'm going to put that on label as well. And if you're like me, this is where any good data analyst or anyone working with data is going to sort of do a sniff test to see if that makes sense. So I live in Arizona. Do I think there's about 6.3 million people in Arizona? I do think that that seems about right. Are there 37 million people in California? I think so. What do you guys think? Does the Texas population seem about accurate? You guys would know better than I. And if we were to check, I would guarantee that's pretty darn accurate to what you'd find if you were to go look it up in the US Census database. So again, with that first step of using the logical data modeling, we've now saved ourselves a bunch of time. We don't have to do any additional calculations, and we're well on our way. So like I kind of mentioned, the thing we really want to do is we want to normalize the data. Now, normalize is sort of a fancy way of saying, let's create a ratio between these two numbers. So let's go ahead and do that next. So let's call this the customer penetration percentage. And I'm going to drag in, I'm holding my control key down here because I'm very, very lazy, and I'm bringing in the number of customers, and I'm now going to divide that by that census amount. And one of the nice things about how I'm doing this is I don't even have to type the sum of the census. I don't have to type anything. I'm actually just using my mouse and holding down my control key to get that calculated field generated. I'm going to go ahead and format this and set some default number formatting. I'm going to make it a percentage. These numbers are going to be small, so I'm going to add a lot of decimals here just because 577 out of 37 million isn't really a whole lot of people, and I don't want us to get to a world of zeros. So now let me go ahead and first drag that onto color. I'm going to take these two values off of the label, and let's bring this on as well. I'm going to go ahead and pause, and I want you to take this in. And actually, let me make another viz so we can see these side by side. So let me go ahead and duplicate this one. And let me go back to what we had before, which was just the number of customers on color. So you can see the two directly at the same time and compare them. And what I really want you to focus on is that color encoding. I'm going to go ahead and hide that indicator for that one unknown value. But if I just flip through these two, this is a completely different data story. So in our very first viz, where we were purely looking at those customer counts, your eyes were gravitating towards the 3 states, California, Texas, and New York. Now, when we switch over to our normalized viz, where we're actually dividing by that total census population, your eyes are no longer gravitating toward the same place. In particular, I think everyone's eyes are drawn up to Washington. That's the darkest one, at least from what I can tell from the blue colors on here, which aren't that great to begin with. But the picture is much different. No longer do you have a slide or a viz that you're giving to your boss and they're saying, yeah, look at California. It's so great. Look how many customers we have there. The conversation is completely different. Now you're saying, what's going on in Washington? Looks like they might be doing something a little bit different. Maybe there's some marketing or some sales initiatives going on there that are being really successful. So this is just kind of one easy thing you can do anytime you are working with any sort of numerical data and geography is related. I'd always recommend, as appropriate, to normalize your data in some way so you can tell a more accurate data story. And again, both of them are right. Both of them are we're not being disingenuous, but one of them is more accurately reflecting and more precisely answering the question. Here we can say, hey, that customer penetration percentage in Washington seems like it's a little bit more than some of the other states. So this is kind of our step one in making this visualization better. And if we were following along in our Tableau strategies book, that's exactly what we go through. We talk through, hey, let's build out that map. And then let's go ahead and normalize it. So this is exactly what I've shown you. There's absolutely nothing different between that. But this map's not that great. It's basically just a bunch of blue. It's very plain. It's hard to see. Yes, I might be able to see that Washington's really great. If you're paying close attention or if you look at it long enough, you can see that Delaware looks like it also has some higher customer penetration. But really, although there might be a compelling data story in here, it's buried under what we're using for color encoding. And that's kind of the next layer that I want to bring to this situation is how can we use color appropriately and add clarity in terms of how we are encoding our data. So I'm going to pop back over to my browser and just quickly show you this resource. And I can even put this in the chat in case you want to take this away. If there's anything you do today, I would do this one thing, which is I would copy these color palettes and I would absolutely add them to your Tableau preferences file. The reason I say this is because all of the palettes that you're seeing here were developed by color scientists. Maybe if I had a new job or a second life, I'd go back and be a color scientist, but they are designed specifically such that the visual intensity and the distinction between the colors is very clear. And what you'll be able to do, and sometimes this does take a bit to load, so I'll go ahead and refresh it. You'll be able to copy all of those hex codes into a text file and then put them in your preferences file. And this is going to be the very next thing you can do to enhance your visualization. I've already got all of those preloaded in here, and you can see them all down at the bottom. Again, the Tableau community is so great because I don't have to do anything. I just have to copy paste to make myself look good in my day job. So what I want to do now is just switch to one of these color palettes. Now, these four in particular, Viridis, Inferno, Magma, and Plasma, they sort of began their lives, at least from what I can tell, in the R community. So there was a lot of effort put into what are the color ranges, what are those color intensities that if we were to ramp them up in sort of a continuous fashion, that we'd be able to show some distinction among them. So I'm going to go ahead and just change this to Viridis, and I'm going to pause and let that sink in. Okay. So we have our color legend in the upper right. We start with yellow close to 0. We're ramping all the way up to sort of like a dark purple. So immediately, what's very interesting here is before my eyes were completely drawn to Washington. And in reality, it took me forever to see it, but Delaware is actually overperforming compared to Washington quite significantly. So as you're thinking about building a map, especially if you're thinking about using color encoding when you're working with a map, I want you to be very mindful of the colors that you choose whenever you share that out to your stakeholders. This is great. I still think there's an opportunity to make this better, because one of the things we can see is we can see that Delaware's great. We can see that Washington's doing well, but it gets a bit murky after that point. You really can't tell maybe necessarily what the top 5 states are. There's kind of still some similarity in colors throughout. You're not quite able to pick out all of those direct insights in a very quick manner. So what are we going to do? We're going to make it a little bit better. And one of the ways we can do that is we can actually turn our map from taking our customer penetration rate by each state, and instead of just showing that number directly as part of color, so whatever those values are, we can instead change it to be using percentiles. And in particular, let's say we want to use deciles. So decile would be every 10. So we've got 50 states. We'd imagine, there's 10 ramps. So there's going to be 5 states in every color. There's probably going to be a little bit fewer because we don't have all 50 states in there. Tableau's done us a favor and just excluded Alaska and Hawaii because they're going to make the map not look pretty. But if you bear with me, we're going to just do one more little step to make this map just a little bit easier to read and understand. And to do that, you're going to add a table calculation. We can actually use a quick table calculation, and we can use the percentile. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to take all of our numbers. If you imagine we are putting all of our customer penetration rates sort of in numerical order from smallest all the way to largest. And then, you think about sort of like your bell curve maybe, or a curve of where the data is. It's then putting those and bucketing those into those different percentiles. So this is even a little bit further, a little bit more clear. Some of that nuance that was green before for like California is a little bit more clear. We're getting a lot more of that dark purple. There's still more color variation. We haven't changed anything too dramatically. I've still got those percentages on there, but we can more clearly see some of those higher performing states. And in particular, we're kind of getting this message that there might actually be something going on in the Northeast that's pretty good, right? It's not necessarily only Delaware now. Maybe Pennsylvania and New York have got something going on as well. Now, this in and of itself, we've just got the percentile on there. These are not deciles yet. So decile would be dividing by 10. So to take it up to be a decile, we can go one more step, and we can go into our color palette, and we can actually define those steps. So when you've got it in this percentile mode, you can actually define what you want. So you could have it be a quantile, meaning, we've got one, or a quartile being one every 4. And so now we've got 4 discrete colors. The decile means we're going to have 10. So this will make it really easy. We've got 10 clear, discrete, and this is the advantage of that color palette. We're going from that yellow all the way to the dark purple. You can clearly see the distinction among them, but we're sort of like reducing the mental math, especially with how we're comparing color, that the end user, that your stakeholder who is asking that question of you has to do. So this is just one additional layer you can do to help make the story more precise. And if you look at where we came from to where we are, so we started here with this 577 in California. We had a very drab map. There was very little very little clarity in terms of where the top performing states were, where we had, the most customers compared to that population. Now we've got a map where we can more easily and readily see what's going on. And maybe even better is to say, like, what's going on right here in the Midwest. These 3 states, when you make a map, proximity matters. So why not, when we make the map, make it such and take advantage of that proximity and draw some conclusions from that. So again, you kind of think through this. We started with just our base map. We had our basic question, what is our number of customers? We kind of built in, we enhanced it, we enriched our data. very quickly with that logical join. We went ahead and we normalized it by going through that process. And then just with a couple extra clicks, we added better color palettes. We have now taken our data from, you know, an infinite number of sort of color ranges down to this sort of discrete set of 10. And like I said, you can go ahead and you can modify that even more dramatically if you so choose. The last thing I want to leave you with, and then I can definitely open it up for any questions that you might have, is how you could take this potentially one step further. So I'm going to go ahead and pop over to one more workbook. And this is just a way to build out dynamic quantiles. So it's very easy to take this idea of the percentiles and then allow your end users to decide how many steps they actually want. You can use a parameter to define what that number is. This one is preset to 10, but you can go ahead and toggle it down. So if they want to go down to 5 colors or 4 colors, you're seeing the map immediately change and those buckets automatically appear. This data is a little bit older. It's the number of businesses. This is per capita. So I have normalized it per capita by each individual county, which is really quite interesting. This one, I've got it reversed actually. So maybe to make it a little bit easier to understand and to kind of align with what we had before, I will unreverse it so we see it in the same format. And when I first built this visualization, I was fascinated by this. I was very much fascinated with the idea that there are more businesses per capita in more rural areas of the United States than some of the more urban areas. So I don't know that I would have actually been able to see this, because you think about how many numbers of businesses there might be in North Dakota. There's no way that that number is matching, you know, the hundreds of thousands of Delaware corporations that are established every single year. But by simply adding the context of the per capita and seeing what that looks like, and then adding on the context of color, it makes it a lot more clear. Now, I'm just going to kind of show you the pre-baked solution to this. So if you do want to take this away, you absolutely can. This is functioning very similar to the table calculation we had before. We're just going one step further. So at the bottom here, I've got a simple parameter. This is just an integer parameter. I've got a step size of 1. I've set a min and a max. You'd probably want to do that if you were going to unleash this on your end stakeholders. So at the very minimum, they have quartiles. So they have 4, and then they go up to deciles or the 10, and they can step through with that step size of 1 to any sort of range within there. And then we've got sort of 2 parts to this. The first one is the percentile, which is just this very similar to what we had before, which is just the quick table calculation of our sort of normalized data value, which is the number of businesses divided by the number of people. And then we go one step further, and this is absolutely a calculation you can steal. And don't worry, this workbook is on my Tableau Public. I will drop it in the chat. So all you're going to do is you're going to kind of do this division to separate out your percentiles into those various quantiles. So with some very basic map, we're basically dividing we're dividing 1 through 10 by that quantile number. So by that integer amount, to then re-bucket those percentiles into their respective categories. And this is what ends up being on color. And so, like I said, this dashboard or example is available on my Tableau Public. I think I made this, oh my gosh, forever ago. I actually did it as part of like a TC tips battle that I didn't win. You can see it's TC 18 way back 3 years ago, but I've always been very happy to come back to this one because it really helps to clarify the visual story when you are working with a map. And I will lead in this with just saying that's only the beginning. So what you've seen is me walk through maybe the first 4 or 5 strategies within chapter 7, which is all about working with geospatial data. So we start with that simple map. We've built up, we've added a custom color palette. This is a step-by-step of how you go through that. And you can see everything I'm describing to you is listed in the book. So if you're someone who is newer to the world of data visualization, maybe you need some additional kind of hands-on understanding, or you would benefit from someone else explaining the why. Why did we go from a blue map to this kind of purple-green map? How did we get there? How did we then build it out to a decile map? You're going to get all of that throughout this book. But like I said, it's just the beginning. The rest of this chapter, which I will not go into too much detail on, has things like how to make a symbol map, how to make a really sophisticated symbol map, maybe like a donut chart that's sitting on each individual state. And then we go into tile maps or cartograms, where you're actually building out a nice tile map for the entire United States, where in this, it doesn't matter what the size of the state is. That's irrelevant. That's not something anyone chose, or whoever chose it has nothing to do with your data set. So it might be appropriate to abstract away from the area of the geography, keep that relative position, right? This is a visual example of educational attainment rates, or how many people actually receive college educations throughout all of the 50 states, plus Puerto Rico down there in the bottom right corner. And it doesn't necessarily matter here how big California or Texas is in this equation. It matters more in terms of a location, what's going on. I mean, what's very visually striking in this is what's going on in West Virginia. Why is that one such a lighter color compared to some of these other more prominent areas in the East Coast, where it seems like there's much more educational attainment? And this continues to grow throughout the book. And this is exactly how most of the chapters lined up. They start out with a very basic example. You're going to kind of take that use case, you're going to continue to build on it, you're going to continue to refine it, and there's going to be a lot of dialogue and discussion throughout what it is you're doing. So you get the perfect blend of how to build it in Tableau, but more importantly, why to build it in Tableau. And I will kind of end with that. Like Chris said, we can open it up for any questions you might have. If you fill out that survey form, you will get entered for a chance to win one of 5 digital copies of the book, which will kind of come across as a PDF. And you can always take away from this the website. And I would encourage you, especially if you have some downtime during the holidays, or you're thinking about what you might be doing in 2022, you can use this free code. I think it's active for the entire first year that the book was released, which it was released around October, end of September, beginning of October. So take advantage of this and activate it when you're ready. You'll have the exact learning resource that I'm showing you today. You can pen different things in there, and I guarantee you're going to learn something new as a result. And I will do one last thing, which is I will copy this into the chat as promised, and then I will stop sharing my screen so we can have any questions that might be around.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ann. That was awesome. And I like how you guided us through just step by step on how you built that map. And as you mentioned with the book, I think it has a nice blend too of being, one, informative, but yet also instructional. So I think people really find that interesting. For everybody, the survey that we have, it's in the chat as well. So go ahead and fill that out so you can get a copy of the free ebook. We are picking 5 random people. So those lucky 5 will be announced early next week. I guess, Ann, there had a couple questions. So I guess, when you're working with maps, what are some of the favorite data sets that you like to pull in, and sort of blend in with some of the maps you do?
Well, certainly, I mean, that's a great question. Certainly census data or anything you can find from the government, and that really is anywhere and everywhere. I love that you can get very granular. I actually like to bring in and enrich my data sets on their own with these sort of secondary, as opposed to using some of the additional map layers in Tableau. Those are sort of a great launching off point, but I find sometimes I just want to see the numbers associated with them. So I always find myself going out and gathering those additional data sets. I don't have any more particular. I love with geospatial data. I didn't show an example today, but I like working with sort of custom polygons. I've worked with on projects before where you're doing sort of custom territories or you're building out. I'm always very fascinated with how those look in Tableau.
Yeah, cool. I think Homer, you said we have a couple questions from the audience as well.
Yes, we do, Johnny. And here, first one. The first one is from Sam Alpine. He asks, I'm curious your thoughts about the number of people per customer. For example, if there are 500 customers in California out of 37 million, which would indicate one customer per 74K people? Would that be a good way to visualize instead of having these very small percentages?
Yeah, Sam, I think that's a good point in question. It actually something that I might end up doing. I do think that these super tiny decimals can be really hard to understand. So this idea of a ratio of 1 to X number is a little bit more palatable, especially now you kind of think about how we kind of message COVID data to some degree. It's easier to understand how many are in there. So I think that's a great point. And you could almost kind of retool that calculation so that you had that ratio and your color is still going to look very similar. It's going to look the same, but it'll be easier to explain and easier for your stakeholders to take away. So I think that's a very relevant idea wrapped inside of a question, Sam.
Cool. I did have a question as far as your the color palettes you showed there. Is the blue, yellow, green one of the more favorites that you like to use, or is there one that you prefer more than others?
Yeah, my favorites are, I do like the 4 that I mentioned. So Viridis, Inferno, Magma, and the one other that I've missed. Those 4 I do like quite a bit. And then in that sort of second section, there are a lot of brewer color palettes. I like the ones that are a single color that sort of ramp up from a white, plasma, thanks, Sam, that ramp up from a white to a darker color. Those tend to work very well for things like population. So I know that those first 4 were somewhat divergent. I mean, we're going from yellow to a purple. So it's a bit more dramatic in intensity, but there are also some really good ones. My favorite color is purple. So there's a color brewer, like purple blue one that I absolutely adore using. But all of those color palettes are way better than the ones that come default with Tableau, in my opinion.
Cool, very cool. Homer, did we have another question there as well?
Yeah, I've got a couple more. Next one is from Rick Santerre. He asks, does Tableau allow the ability to upload predefined geospatial parameters? I'm specifically interested in voting precincts, for example. We're assuming that there are data already by the state or federal level, but do you know of voting district precincts data?
Yes, so Tableau can do a lot of things natively. So the most granular it can go down to is an MSA. It does accept shapefile data. So if you have data that is for something more precise or something slightly different, and you source that particularly from the government, you can always bring in shapefiles, would probably be the most common one you would find. And as long as there are geospatial data points, most likely a polygon if we're talking about a voting precinct, Tableau will map that just fine. So as long as you can find the data and bring it in and it's a shapefile, KMLs also work as well. Tableau will be able to map it.
And any suggestions where to actually find this precinct data?
Yes. I would, Google is your best friend. There is a resource that I use a lot. I think it's called Tiger Lines. If you're looking at one particular state, Texas is actually a really great example. There's a lot of open Texas data. So if you're looking in a particular state, a lot of them have really deep geospatial databases. You can find a lot of really cool information there. So not only would you be able to find voter precinct data, but you might be able to find territories. I worked on a project once that was looking for conservation areas in California. So I was able to kind of go onto a California website and find that data for maybe areas that were sort of wildlife or nature preserves. So if it's state specific, I'd go to the state government and see if they have sort of an open portal resource. If not, then I would start looking more nationally. I will warn you that if you are looking nationally and working with geospatial data, those files are going to get really big really quickly.
Okay, that's a great answer. Let's see, we have another one here from Dave Coggan, and he's looking for good sources for geographic data, like how many square miles in the area, average elevation, contour maps, other spatial data entities.
Okay. So contour maps are an interesting one. I don't know that I've ever looked. I have found drought maps before that I've used. I've actually used it on a project to figure out how much flea and tick medication someone might sell in a given year. When it's a little bit more rainy, there tend to be more ticks. That data was sourced from US weather. So again, think about the big entities in our country and use those as a launching off point. I haven't used any contour maps in Tableau, but if there's predefined spatial objects, you should be able to use those. I think maybe one day it sounds like there's a need for us to kind of pull together sort of like an aggregate of where those great sources are. I do think they are somewhat fragmented, and you're kind of looking more specifically to who might be the actual government entity that would have that type of data. So obviously with drought data and rain estimations, you're thinking weather, but certainly when you're talking more around elevations, it might be something a little bit more general.
Okay, and we have a question, forgive me if I butcher your name, but Amuing Lee asks, where can we download the US Census data?
So the US Census data file that I showed you, you can download at tablewstrategies.com. I think you can go to census.gov. I want to say that that's what it is. They've actually made it really easy. There's a really nice portal. If you're fancy, you can use an API to define what data you want, but there's also a lot of sort of tabular data where you can kind of similar to Tableau, almost like drag and drop and pick sort of like the fields you want and what kind of information you're looking for. But rest assured that file that is on Tableau Strategies, the website, you can use that confidently, at least for the years that are in there. I don't think it's on there, but I will write it down as a takeaway to put the original source of where I got that information, so you know when it says census, what year that actually relates to.
Do you know offhand if the 2020 census data is available in Tableau?
I don't know yet. I haven't seen it. One thing I do want to say, this was kind of mentioned at Tableau conference this year, and it's kind of relevant and top of mind for me, is next year, Tableau is making a big push with what they're now calling the Tableau Exchange, so sort of their marketplace. And one of the things that they are doing is trying to source that first party data. So I'm hoping some of the woes we're talking about as it relates to census data, as it relates to geographic data, and Brad has put a perfect link in the chat for everyone to look at, might actually be something we can find just on the Tableau website, and something that we can all confidently be using the same as everyone else on. But for now, I think Brad probably has a really good launching point as to where you might want to go.
Awesome. Well, Chris, those are all the questions I have right now.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. Well, thank you, Omar. I have one final question. So what are some of the other strategies people can look forward to in your book, just high level?
High level. Okay, so my favorite chapter in the entire book, I wrote it, but it's my favorite one. It's called Advanced Mathematical Concepts. Now that sounds really sophisticated and really complex, but it does a great job of outlining where you might do different data science or data science-esque exercises. Is it something you do in Tableau? Is it something you do somewhere else? Especially these days, there's a lot of conversations around data science, a lot of conversations around predictive. So that chapter is my favorite. So if you're in a situation where your boss is maybe asking for you to kind of push the edge of analysis in terms of math, that one is a really good one. And then there's also a chapter that Luke wrote that's more around sort of dashboard design and kind of building what he and I call data products. And I think that one's also really impactful because it really talks about how you can use a lot of the things I kind of touched on. So color, formatting, interactivity, to make really great data products. So if you are someone who is looking at thinking, you know, you're building dashboards, but you want to kind of know how you get to the next level, that chapter's got your back.
Awesome. Awesome. A little sneak preview there. So, well, Anne, thank you again for taking the time. I know some of you don't know, but she actually escaped from a holiday party over there in the UK. So she is doing this on a special time. So thank you again for speaking. Everyone give Anne a virtual round of applause. So thank you, Anne.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So so let's get on to our next topic here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. So for our next topic, we thought we'd do something a little fun. I know all of you guys have been with us throughout the past year, and in fact, we've been doing this almost virtually for 2 years. And since we're coming up on the holidays and winding down for the year, we thought it'd be really fun to recap some of the events that we did, and we thought we tried to make it a little friendly game of trivia for everyone. And so what we have here, let me go ahead and get this working. What we have is we're going to play a game, and we'll ask you a series of questions, and we're going to ask you to vote using your phone or your computer. So I'm going to give everybody just 1 minute to go ahead and sort of go ahead and sign up. It's easy to do. There is an app, but you don't have to download the app. You can simply open up a browser on your phone or computer and go to pollev.com/x360. You can also do it by text. I would say the best user experience is by your browser on your phone or computer. So we'll give everybody just 1 second, a couple of seconds to go ahead and get set up. Maybe if you are ready, please raise your hand on the chat there, and we can tell who's ready. And Homer, if maybe you could help me out and let me know if we got everybody signed up there. Well, Homer's ready, so that's good. Ready to play. All right, I see a lot of hands going up, and this is going to be fun. We're going to it's a real stroll down memory lane here, and we're also going to sort of honor some of those speakers that have put a lot of time in helping us on our events. So give everybody just a couple more seconds. And as we're going through this, I'll sort of explain the rules or the format, I should say. So I'll go ahead and there'll be a question and it'll be multiple choice A, B, C, or D. And then we'll wait a couple seconds for people to view. And then the next slide, we'll go ahead and preview what were the results. What do most people think the answer is? And then on the third one, we'll see if the majority is correct. So let's see how this game works out. So, all right, Homer, how's it looking? Do we have some folks?
Well, we have a lot of people with their hands up. Go under reactions, and you'll see at the bottom of that panel, there's raise hand. Click on that and leave that up until we ask you to take it down so we can see that people have really been able to find the website, because you have to type in your name, but not a lot more than that. So
this is a first here on our tug. So if this survey goes terribly south, I apologize. We'll give it a try.
Yeah, and if you don't like it, tell us. All right.
Hey, we got a survey. You can win
yeah, we got a survey.
Right?
Please tell us, was this fun for you, or did you think it was annoying?
Yeah, actually, this came from one of our surveys. The idea was people said, hey, I'd love to make this a little more interactive. So, if this works out well, we won't do a trivia game at the end of every event, but we will mix it into maybe some of our presentations just to get some feedback. So, all right, Homer.
All right.
Looking good there?
Why don't we go ahead and get things started? And,
okay.
The rest of you, when you get in, you can catch up with the next question, but go ahead and lower your hands now.
All right, so let's, and you don't have to raise your hand to answer the questions, guys. It's not school. So, all right, if everybody's ready, we'll start off with a little bit of a softball. So how many Austin, DFW, San Antonio tugs events did we have in 2021? Was it A, 7, B9, C11, or D12? I don't know, Homer. There were a lot.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. I do know one thing. Maybe at the start of the year, we might shorten our name a little bit. It's a little lengthy for me, so we might try to come up with a cool acronym or something. All right, let's go ahead and see. Let's go ahead and see what the results were. And this is where I have technical difficulties. All right, it says awesome. It says 0. 1 second.
Yeah,
It's coming up.
Chris?
The map for the hometown. Do you need to refresh?
Yeah, we just get up a map of our hometown.
Ah,
Okay,
now I
Oh.
see it. Okay.
All right, is it working now? Here
I
we
think
go.
everybody needs to know what
Yes.
to do after they click the where you located map.
Okay, why don't you hit refresh on your browser? It should maybe bring
Yeah,
up the game.
I'm seeing the questions, but they're stretched out in long bars all the way across. But what you want to look at is the number in each bar, and then click on the one that you think is right.
Yeah. So looking at our answers here, it looks like we had everyone say 11. So let's see if that is the correct answer. Yeah, 11 was right. So good job, guys. Everybody got it right. We only took 1 month off. That was for the month of July. We took the summer off. So for our next question here, Whole Foods gave a great presentation on how they leverage Tableau to be a better driven organization. What month? Does anybody know what month that they presented? Was it January, April, July, August, or none of the above? Right. Let's see, Homer, do you know the answer? Think so?
I'm taking a guess.
Right.
I don't know for sure.
All right, let's see. So the results coming in, let's see what everybody responded here. Looks like, wow, a lot of people said April. Okay, let's see. And some people said none of the above. They thought it was a trick question. Let's go see what the results said. And the results are, suspense, this is by far eating up my laptop. So January is the correct answer. So it looks like a second place tie for January. All right, so our next question here, let me tee this up. And here, oh, I forgot, here's our slide with our presenters. So Andrew Nafziger, Senior Manager of Analytics, and John Burns, Senior Analyst at Whole Foods, but also one of our TUG Advisory Board members, gave the presentation, and it was great. It was on growing analytics organically. So you can always, if you want to see it, go ahead and check that out. That'll be on our Austin User Group page if you want to check out the video. For our next question, we had Carl Alkin, the other head coach at the data school, and he works also at the information labs over in London. He gave a presentation in October called "Why Aren't We Communicating with Data?" So the question is in Carl's October talk, what percentage of people surveyed did not feel comfortable with their own ability to read, understand, and work with data? And it's not displaying my questions there. There we go. 25, 56, 63, or 79. Does anybody know what percentage felt uncomfortable with their ability to read, understand, and work with their own data? All right, answers going in. Let's see them. So the results, the majority say we're looking at 56%. I can't see the other part there. Looks like maybe 79%. Let's take a look at the results. %. So it looks like a lot of people know what they're talking about. And that's amazing when you think about it. I mean, we all work with data every single day, and a lot of us feel like we could just know more. So, all right, for our next question. In May, this speaker presented 14 different ways to use transparent shapes. Who was this presenter? Was it Amy Wu, Simon Beaumont, Anna Ford, or Kevin Flerlich? This was a really awesome presentation. If you guys have not seen it, you need to go back and check out the recording. It's amazing. I didn't even know there were that many ways to use transparent shapes. So who was the speaker? Give it just 1 second, we'll lock it in. I'm curious if everybody knows this one. Kevin Flerlich, that's correct. Yes, it was not Amy, who is our wonderful advisory board member. I'm sure she could think of at least 15 ways, but yes, Kevin gave an awesome presentation. Like I said, I did not even know there are that many ways to do it. You should check it out. And I'll pull up his profile here in a second. If you don't know Kevin, he is a wonderful presenter. He posts a lot of blogs. He's a Zen master as well. And also a twin. The Flerlich twins have their own website. You should check it out. He and his brother Kevin do amazing work. So he presented in May with a presentation called Tableau Tips You Never Saw Coming. And again, if you haven't seen it, you should check it out. So just a couple more questions that we'll present here. The first one is, in September, there was a presentation on Tableau extensions by Merlin Boyd. What company is Merlin the CTO and founder of? So is it Tableau Public? Maybe. Chartopia, Infotopics, or Data Crunch? I don't know if you guys caught that presentation with Merlin, but the extensions were super cool. He's got a whole slew of them on his website. Y'all should check it out. What's the name of the company? Let's go ahead and check it out. Everybody thinks it is Infotopics. Sounds familiar. Let's see what the correct answer is. Yes, it is Infotopics. Good job, everybody. Merlin, like I said, is an amazing speaker and just a guru at extensions. If you have not checked out the Infotopics website, also apps for Tableau, you should check it out. You'll find a lot of awesome extensions that you can use in your day-to-day across your organization in your dashboards. And finally, we'll close with one, and I hope everybody gets this answer. So Ann Jackson, our amazing speaker, gave an awesome presentation today. What is the name of her new book? Data Don't Lie? Or B, Tableau Strategies? C, The Big Book of Dashboards? Or D, Pie Charts Are the Best? Come on, you guys, please, we gotta have this one. So let's see. Looking at the vote here, was everybody paying attention today? We have, everybody said it was Tableau Strategy, 77%. I'm shocked it wasn't 100. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves, but that was a good guess, guys. So yeah, that's it as far as our presentation here. Thank you for humoring me through our trivia. Maybe a couple snacks we need to work out for next time, but I thought it was fun to do. Seriously, I thank all of you guys for attending all the events we had this year, and we're looking forward to doing more next year. Thank you again to all the advisory board members that have helped behind the scenes to help organize this, and also on the events, speaking and contributing to the actual presentations. You guys are awesome. So I'd like to invite you all to join us in January for our last virtual presentation before we go live. So very exciting to meet some of you face-to-face in February. So thank you again, all of you, and have a happy holiday. Talk to you later.